What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the show. I want to start off by asking everyone to let me know where you're tuning in from, city and state. Also, if you're tuning in from outside of this great nation, let me know where you're tuning in from. Country, province, region, wherever it is you live. So, gone for a minute, but I'm back now. Been on the road, lots of travel, lots of big things happening with 221B Tactical. As many of you know who follow the page on social media, been in Las Vegas, been everywhere, over the pond, back on this end of the pond. We got the Czech Republic in the house. That's amazing. One of my best friends growing up and one of my best friends to this day is originally from the Czech Republic. So, let me know where you're tuning in from. Love seeing our international viewers. So, over the pond, back on this side of the pond, Las Vegas, huge meeting with the UFC. So thank you to everyone at the UFC for a phenomenal experience this past week. Of course, many of you know the Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier fight occurred this past weekend. And those of you who saw it know what happened. Those of you who didn't, look it up. I will be disclosing the details of that meeting and what will be happening with the UFC very, very soon. So let's get right into it. I was speaking to a police officer the other day, and they were telling me about something that they are doing in their city to combat gang violence. And I was in this city many months ago, and when I was there, I did notice that they had those big concrete barriers. I don't know if you've ever been somewhere. They actually, in New Jersey, they call them Jersey barriers. And they're just big pieces of concrete in the middle of the road used to either divide lanes or what have you. But in this incident, I looked down certain streets, and certain streets, I remember back when I saw it, just had these big Jersey barriers across them. And I was thinking to myself, wow, why would they just have a random street closed off like that? Well, it happens to be that those big concrete barriers, are at certain streets along the outskirts of the town to help stop or help kind of funnel the gangbangers that are shooting and killing each other. It limits their avenues of escape to leave the town after they do their drive-by shooting. So the police force, which is diminished, only has so many cops, so they could only stay at so many streets to help block off and wait for the people who are doing the shooting to flee. If these roads didn't have these barriers, they wouldn't have enough cops to sit at all these avenues of escape, and the shooters would escape. So they have these big barriers. You'd think there's like construction going on, and they're maybe improving the roads or improving the town. That is not the case, folks. These barriers are there to help make it a little bit tougher on the folks that are coming into town and doing the drive-by shootings on a daily basis, sometimes twice a day. I talked to an officer who said that there was an incident just a few weeks ago where the same car and the same suspect committed 2 drive-by shootings in the same day. I mean, listen, this is a busy day. These people have businesses to run. So, I mean, if you got to do 2 drive-bys in one day, you got to do 2 drive-bys in one day. I mean, this is 2021. I mean, unemployment is high and people are out of work collecting unemployment. So I guess these things happen. So anyway, I wanted to touch on something that we shared on social media that I got a lot of response from, and people just were unsure about the numbers and what was discussed. So in Chicago this past weekend, there were 40 people shot, 40, 40 people shot, 11 killed. And that was just in this weekend. Now, a lot of people were shocked at that number. 40 people shot, 11 people killed. None by the police, by the way. None by the police. However, what was more shocking was something that one of our followers, our loyal followers, sent me. Last weekend, 104 people were shot in Chicago, 19 killed, 13 of the wounded were children. The youngest of the children shot in Chicago, 5 months old and 6 months old. 5 months old and 6 months old. Shot. 13 children in total. 19 dead. 104 shot. So, in just the last 2 weeks, we have, in the grand total, we have 144 shot and 29 killed. Those aren't rookie numbers, folks. Those are all-star numbers. All-star numbers. That's in the span of less than 10 days, folks. Less than 10 days. Think about that for a second. So, what we know now is, and I think there was an error in unfortunately, our favor, where the stat that we shared, which was from a university, and I'll put the university in the notes below, that in the last 90 days, more innocent black people. Now, people say innocent. What do you mean innocent? Well, let me say this. Okay? Let me say this. I'm going to move this out of the way because I'm going to karate chop it with my hands. Let me say, some people say, well, these gang members that are shooting at each other, they're dealing drugs, turf, all this, they're not so innocent. Let's just pretend they're all good people. I know not all of them. Of course, we can assume that the 5-month-old and the 6-month-old are innocent and were not involved in the drug game or in the crime game. We could assume that. However, some of the adults that were shot may or may not have been involved in drugs, violence, what have you. Some were innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. Now, the story that no one seems to be talking about, that got zero national news and national headlines, zero, nearly zero. I think it maybe popped on the national radar for a minute. Deals with someone I know. I'm 1 degree removed from the family, which is scary. A family, their son, 20-year-old or 21-year-old son, University of Chicago, summer internship, on the subway, middle of the day, was on the subway sitting innocently. He's a white kid, young white kid. Bullet comes through the subway, goes through the glass, hits him in the neck. He gets taken to the hospital, serious condition, and he's paralyzed from the neck down, quadriplegic. He's on life support, and ultimately, I believe that was on July 3rd. Ultimately, I believe 3 days later, he passed away. He was removed from life support. He passed away. 20 or 21 years old, junior, I believe, at University of Chicago. Now, that is in line with the weekend that had, I think, 20-something shootings. I don't know. I could look it up right now, and let's see what the numbers are. Let's see. Yeah, I think that was 104 shot. Yeah. Yeah, pretty crazy. 104 shot. The numbers are always going up. One article is saying that weekend, 230 people. So I don't know. The numbers are, 140, 230. Chicago's essentially a war zone now. So anyway, this young man who's innocently riding the subway on his way back from work gets shot in the neck and ultimately dies. And the mayor, a few days later, has the audacity, Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, has the audacity to say, we don't have a crime problem in this city. We don't have a crime problem in this city. In fact, she said, crime is on a downward trajectory. She said that 3 days ago, folks. Look it up. Look up Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, crime downward trajectory, and see for yourself. Read it for yourself. I don't know if some of the people in charge are just looking at the numbers, they're just ignorant of the numbers, they just don't want to talk about the truth. But when you are the mayor of a city in which people are dying by the dozens every week, every weekend, mind you, we're talking about weekends. These numbers, 104, 101, 97, those are just what's happening during the weekend. Saturday, Sunday. I don't know if they start on Friday evening, but typically Saturday, Sunday is what the weekend is. They're not talking about the numbers during the week. Now, if we add the numbers of shootings and the people who are getting shot and killed during the week, that's a whole nother ball of wax. Right? And now, mind you, we're just talking about one city. We're just talking about one city. We're not talking about Detroit. We're not talking about Minneapolis. We're not talking about Portland. We're not talking about all these cities, right? I don't know how the people in power there can literally sit there and say, and act like, hey, nothing's wrong here. Nothing's wrong. Everything's okay. Crime's on its way down, actually. Right? So, do they think we're not looking at the news? Do they think we don't have computers and phones? I mean, I know the news doesn't really put on the national stage the violence in Chicago. Chicago, one of the most violent. But you'll never see the city that actually beats Chicago in the news. You really don't. I'll give all the viewers a few seconds to take a guess per capita. Maybe I'll have the team send you something for free, because we all like free, right? We all like something for free. I'll have the team send someone something for free. Free gift. If anyone in the next 30 seconds can pick the city that per capita has more violent crime than Chicago, take a guess. Take a guess. I'll give you guys a few seconds. Per capita, more violent crime, shootings, murder, all that stuff, per capita than Chicago. Beats Chicago by far. Now, it's not talked about. No one knows, right? So, this is the story. A lot of people say, oh, that gun violence. A lot of people who live in suburbia don't really think that the gun violence in Chicago affects them. Well, this young student, his parents lived in Denver and had to fly out to Chicago to watch their son die, coming off life support. They lived in a very nice suburban area in Denver, Colorado. However, the gun violence in Chicago hit home to them. They've now lost their son, innocently riding the subway. Wasn't like in a deli and got caught in the crossfire in a bad neighborhood, or wasn't walking home through a bad neighborhood and, straight. It was literally on the subway. So, yes, the violence in these cities hits home, whether you live in Chicago or you don't live in Chicago. So it's very easy to look at the news and be like, oh, wow, another 25 people killed in Chicago this weekend. Isn't that credible, honey? Really easy to do that. Really easy to do that. And think it doesn't affect you until it does. Until it does. Now, to me, never in 1,000,000 years would I send my child to school in Chicago. I don't care if they said, we will pay you money to send your child here. Not only is it free tuition, but we will pay you cash every semester to send your child to school here. I wouldn't send my child there. That's me personally. I'm not judging anyone else's decision to send their child to school in Chicago. But me personally, I would never send my child to school there. Would you? Seeing how violent it is? Now, you might say, well, my child is a good student. He's not involved in drugs or violence or gangs or anything like that. But as you can see, simply riding on the subway home from work could be deadly. So the violence does hit home. It can affect you. It can affect someone you know, as it is with me, with this person I know that knows that family. So it's easy to look at that on the news and feel like it won't hit home. But one day it will. That's why the violence in cities like Chicago and Portland and Newark and Detroit, we shouldn't just look at it as, oh, well, I don't live there, so it's fine. And a lot of people look at it, well, it's just gang members killing each other. Not for this family out of Denver, Colorado. Not for them. This is gangbangers shooting each other and stray bullets killing their son. So it's not that simple. It's not that simple. When you have a 5-month-old and 6-month-old baby, little black babies killed in shootings, and nobody says a word, I guarantee that nobody watching this right now can give me the name of the children, just the children, shot and killed. Can you? No one knows. No one can. Most people don't even know the name of my friend's son. My friend's friend's son. Most people don't know his name. Most people will never know his name. Because his life didn't matter, right? He's just some white kid from Colorado going to school in Chicago, and he got struck by a stray bullet. So you'll never hear his name. There will be no riots. There'll be no burning. There'll be no looting. Nothing. There'll be nothing. We all know that, right? Folks, we all know that. We know that there'll be no riots. There'll be no burning. And there'll be no looting for the 5-month-old and 6-month-old babies that were shot. We all know that, right? We all know that. Right? So we have a pair of parents grieving in Colorado because their son is dead. There's no gold casket. There's no GoFundMe. There's no nothing. There's no nothing. We are now in a society where people who would typically be looked at and completely dismissed are now being risen to hero status. Where's the statue? Can someone tell me, where's the statue for David Dorn? The black police officer, retired police officer, that was killed during the riots and the burning and the looting. Killed during the BLM Antifa craziness. Murdered in the street, David Dorn. Can someone tell me where his 1,000-pound brass statue is? Can someone tell me the city and state of where David Dorn's statue commemorating his life is? No one can. No one can. By the way, the answer to the question before is Philadelphia. Philadelphia, per capita, based on population, Philadelphia has worse crime and violence than Chicago. Look it up. But no one even hears about Philadelphia. No one talks about it. I have friends that are police officers there. It is literally the Wild West. Look up the video of the two black men riding their horses into a corner bodega on horseback. Horses. These aren't mounted police officers. These are two gangbangers. They went into a corner bodega on horseback, literally rode the horse right into the bodega and rode out of the bodega on the horse. Look up the video. When I first saw it, I was like, are they shooting a movie? Is this a movie scene or something? I said, it's not a movie. This was cell phone video from a bystander. This is just a normal afternoon in Philadelphia. Shooting after shooting after shooting, crime after crime after crime. And guess what? Who are all the victims? You guessed it, folks. Black people. Black lives that don't matter. Black lives that don't matter to Black Lives Matter. Let's face it. That is the reality of this situation. The black lives that don't matter to Black Lives Matter. Because not all Black lives matter to Black Lives Matter. Not all Black lives matter to LeBron James and other woke athletes. Not all Black lives matter to the politicians that like to play the game and wear the garb. Not all Black lives matter to the celebrities that are screaming defund the police from their mansions with private security. Not all Black lives matter to Black Lives Matter. How there isn't an organization that has come about with greater presence, greater power than Black Lives Matter to battle the one thing that is taking more Black lives than anything. Police, you name it. How is there not an organization? Because when you talk to people with Black Lives Matter, they tell you outright, they're very open about it. We are not about black on black violence. That's not our mission. That's not our purpose. They will tell you that. Even if you give them the alarming numbers, babies being shot in the street, little babies, they tell you that's not our business. That's not our business. We got nothing to do with that. We're about the 9 or so black men that choose to fight with the police or somewhat get engaged with the police, that the police end up shooting and killing. 9 or 10 a year. That's the ones we're 9 or 10 babies, black babies and black children, 9 or 10 black children killed in one day. We're not worried about that. Take it easy. Take it easy. There's children killed in one day. We're not worried about that. That's not our mission. We're worried about these grown men making poor decisions that have led them to a life of crime and then now lead them to an engagement with the police where they're choosing to either resist arrest, fight the police, run from the police, do something. We're choosing to focus on them, and we're choosing to ignore the dozens and dozens and dozens, now in the hundreds, thousands of innocent black lives taken by other black people. I'll end on this. First, my prayers to the family who just lost their son. My prayers to the family with the young man, University of Chicago student. My prayers to the families of innocent children in Chicago and cities across the country that this past weekend, dozens and dozens of innocent young black children lost their lives this past weekend. And my prayers go out to them, their families, because no one is saying their children's name. No one's putting their child's name on a t-shirt, on the back of a jersey, on a pair of sneakers, on a pair of cleats. No celebrity is tweeting about them, hashtag their name, hashtag say their name. No, but nothing. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of parents right now grieving the loss of their children. Black parents grieving the loss of their black children. And no white politician is even calling them. No black athletes, no white celebrities. No one's calling them. No one is doing a damn thing for them. That only happens if you're a grown adult living a life of crime, making bad decisions, and you decide, you know what? You're a gangster. You're going to fight with the police. So, my prayers to all them. We should all pray for them. The gig is up. We're seeing the numbers. The gig is up. If you're a black person or a white person, and you acknowledge openly that you don't care about black children being killed in these cities across the country every single day, you're just worried about the 1, 2, 3, 9 a year killed by the police. Their lives are important too, but you don't care about the children, babies being killed. We know exactly the kind of person you are. We know exactly the kind of person you are. You're letting everyone know. So all these celebrities, all these politicians, everyone, we know exactly the kind of person you are. Because if you're a celebrity, an athlete, any politician, and you've been silent over these last 2 weeks where no unarmed black man was shot by the police, but 150 black people have been shot in one city alone, and you haven't said anything? You haven't tweeted? You haven't posted on Instagram? Their name? Their family? Start a GoFundMe? Make a donation out of your millions of dollars? No, you haven't done any of that, right? They're all going to sit back and be silent. And they're waiting. They're waiting. They're waiting. And 6 months from now, 9 months from now, whatever it might be, when there's another incident involving a black man resisting arrest, fighting with the police, trying to take a gun, trying to take a taser, doing some stupid ish that they shouldn't be doing, and they get shot, and maybe they get killed, all the celebrities, all the politicians, all the athletes are all going to come out of the woodwork, and they're going to be posting hashtag, and they're going to get on the news. Oh my God, my heart, oh, this family, oh my God. That same black lawyer is going to be there. He's going to drop out of the sky like Jesus the attorney. He's going to drop out. He's going to be, I'm representing this family now. Same guy. He's every city, no matter who gets shot by the police, he's there. Crump, Ben Crump. Right? So that is what I tell you to wait for. Because if nearly 200 people shot, celebrities, athletes, politicians, give me one. They got 200 people to choose from. Just from one city. If we take in the whole country, you probably got 1,000 people to shoot. You probably got 1,000 victims. Why don't you hashtag one of them? Hashtag one of them. Bring attention to one innocent black child shot in this country over the last week. Just bring attention to one. You won't. You don't even know their name. You won't do it. You can't do it. because you don't care. It's not doing anything for you. You'll only do it when the next big one happens and it involves a police officer. That's the next time you do it. And all of you should be ashamed. That's a disgusting and horrible way to live your life. And you should all be ashamed. All be ashamed. That's it, folks. I'm going to end with this. I was on a podcast this last weekend, John Bartolo Show. You can find his show, John Bartolo Show, on iTunes. And in it, I speak about, especially the last hour, my personal experience as a police officer and what happened to me. So I invite you to go check it out, listen on your way to work, on the gym. I think you'll find it very, very interesting as an officer of color's experience in an all-white police department in a pretty much all-white town. I think you'll find the details of what I share very, very intriguing. That's John Bartolo Show on YouTube and on iTunes. So go check it out. Anywhere you can find podcasts, the show is. Great conversation with him. Great, great show. I'll end on this. If you were someone that truly disliked people of color and wanted to see them in pain and to see them suffer and ultimately see them die, disappear, and you were truly an evil person and that was your goal, but you couldn't just openly go around doing some of the horrible things that have happened to people of color in the past. You couldn't go around just snagging people of color and hanging them from trees or dragging them behind cars, which has happened in the past, mind you. But to do that today wouldn't work out so well for you. So what if you still wanted to see that same result, but you couldn't take those actions? What would be your only option to see people of color die? Your only option would be to create a system of sorts, create a situation, if you would, in which they would just kill themselves. And you could just sit back and watch. You can't openly go around, let's say you're an evil person that hates black people. You can't just go around shooting black people. You can't go around just kidnapping them and, putting them on trees and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You'll end up dead. You'll end up in jail. Right? So what would be the next best thing? If you truly wanted to see people of color die, what would be the next best thing? Look at Chicago. Look at Philadelphia. Look at St. Louis. Look at Minneapolis. Look at Portland. Look at what's happening there. Hundreds and hundreds of black lives being killed broad daylight right in the street. Right in the street, broad daylight. Drive-by shootings, broad daylight. LA, broad daylight. Not at night, not under darkness, broad daylight. Gunned down in the street. Men, women, and children. I mean, think about this. If you were an evil, evil person that hated black people, what would happen to you if you went and shot and killed a little 5-month-old black baby or a little 6-month-old black baby? You'd be done. You'd be done. You have the death penalty. You'd probably be killed before you even got to the chair. But what if you can get that same result without lifting a finger? All you had to do was create the situation in which they kill themselves. And you just sit back and watch. Let's think about that for a second. And then ask yourself, what's going on in these cities? And don't think for a second it doesn't affect you, because you don't live in those cities. Oh, it does. And as time goes on, if it continues, it will affect you more and more and more. Believe me. It just happened. And it will happen again, and it will happen again. Don't be fooled, and don't be foolish. Notice what's going on. And if you think, oh, I just won't go to those cities, we'll just stay home, staycation, think again. All right, be safe. Let's catch you next time.